It's finally starting to feel like spring here in State College, and right on time as the MLB season has officially begun. Hello everyone and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Josh Bartosik, joined alongside by Garcia and Joe Callahan Jr. And we are here to break down the first week of MLB action. So guys, this season had a ton of anticipation as you saw several teams look to bolster their lineups, hoping to reach the promised land, all except for the Oakland Athletics. But with that out of the way and with the opening week jitters out of the way, Carlos, I'll start with you. What team really caught your eye here in the early going?
Well, definitely the team that stood out to me so far has to be the Los Angeles Dodgers, but definitely not in a good way. I mean, in the opening weekend, we knew that coming in, they were going to be the team to win the World Series. They were the favorite. On paper, they have the best lineup, the best bullpen. They're the most complete package. They're going to win the World Series. I truly believe that. But so far, opening weekend has not shown that whatsoever. Versus the Rockies, who are maybe the third best team in the NL West. I mean, the Dodgers are really starting to show that they're slow coming out the gate. They're 1-2 right now versus the Rockies in the opening weekend. Fourth in the NL West. The batting, the pitching, it's been all awful. I mean, at the plate on Sunday versus the Rockies, they went 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. So they left guys stranded on the bags, and they couldn't get any runs out of that. And then on the mound, Julio Urias, just awful. I mean, in 2 innings of pitching, he gave up 6 runs, 3 of those earned, and he had no strikeouts. So the Dodgers, it seems like they're still on a little hangover from winning the World Series a couple years ago. It seems like they're trying to mesh with Freddie Freeman and really get those guys that star power of why they're the best team in the league, but they got to wake up.
Yeah, I agree fully. It's the Dodgers. Why are you losing to the Rockies? And when you put into account that they came within a 4th inning on opening day, 5 runs in that inning, by the way, from literally sweeping the Dodgers. Now, if this success continues, I'm not going to predict that it is. But if this success for the Rockies continues, we got to ask the question, was Kris Bryant the answer? Did this CBA actually do something? I mean, this small market team is beating the Dodgers. So if more small market teams are going to do something like beating the Dodgers or other teams such as them, these are questions we have to ask sort of in that, future if this success continues.
Yeah, you definitely bring up good points, Carlos. I mean, the Dodgers have always been a team that's a perennial powerhouse, especially now they went out and got Freddie Freeman. You have guys like Doug Roberts coming out and saying, we're going to win the ring this year. And just starting off with a slow start against a not great team in the Rockies is certainly not what you want to see. But you do bring up a good point as well, Joe. Like the Rockies, Kris Bryant could have been the answer. No one really seems to know what they ever do in the offseason. They don't seem to have direction, but Kris Bryant could be that potential piece. But moving on now, guys, there's a lot of storylines that always come out throughout the season. Like so far this year, the Phillies actually might go 500 and make the playoffs for once. But regarding that, or regardless of that, Joe, I'll go to you. What storyline do you see progressing throughout this MLB season?
Well, the biggest storyline to me is what's going on with the Yankees and Aaron Judge. I mean, he's turning down a 7-year, over $210 million. What is happening? Does he know something we don't? I mean, this is the Yankees Bronx Bomber. Their identity is hitting home runs. You can't win the AL East with just Rizzo and Stanton. You lost Sanchez in the offseason. Obviously, that piece is vital because your identity is hitting home runs. And if you have to get rid of one of the best home run hitters in the league, that's a problem. And if he's giving up that much money, there has to be something that's going on in an organization where he's disgruntled or something like that, because the Yankees always give money to their players. They send out the bag every year. So there must be something that we don't know, but the Yankees cannot afford to get rid of Judge.
Yeah, like you said, the Yankees definitely can't afford to get rid of Judge. But I'm looking at, Shohei Ohtani right now is the best two-way player in the sport. And with the new CBA, after 99 days of MLB lockout, the baseball's finally back. And Shohei Ohtani, what he did last year was incredible. I mean, on the mound and at the plate. But I'm looking to see now how this new CBA and the rules that came from it, how it's going to affect Shohei Ohtani. Because what it does now with the designated hitter rule, it allows Shohei Ohtani to stay in the game even after he's pulled from the mound. So is this going to increase his numbers? Is this going to give him a drop? Is he going to see more times at the plate? Is he going to get more walks, more home runs? So I really want to see how Shohei Ohtani is going to be affected by being that DH, maybe even playing games where he's not pitching and being that DH position. So I think he'll probably have even better numbers if he's seen more plate appearances than last year. But that's definitely something to look forward to if you're an Angels fan.
Yeah, I mean, we really saw an incredible year from Shohei Ohtani last year. We're hoping that, his production along with the pieces that they brought in the offseason can finally bring the Angels back to the postseason. And back to your point, Joe, I got to agree. There's never seems to be a lack of drama coming out of the Yankees. There's always some sort of thing going on. So you want to see them figure this out because Aaron Judge was really one of those big pieces that brought them back to relevance when they kind of weren't doing anything for the past couple of years. But now, on to our final topic, we see a lot of players that can, change the face of a franchise or move the franchise either up or down the standings on an instant. Players like Shohei Ohtani, like you just mentioned, and Fernando Tatis come to mind. Now, talents like that are rare, but anything can happen in baseball. So, Carlos, I'll go back to you. Do you see any player so far that could potentially shift the team's dynamic throughout the year?
Well, the Chicago Cubs in the offseason lost Javier Baez and Chris Bryant. This was a year that Cubs fans knew it was going to be a rebuild. They weren't really expecting anything out of it. However, in comes Seiya Suzuki, the greatest 27-year-old rookie the sport has ever seen. What this guy's doing, coming from the Japanese Baseball League and putting MLB fans on notice. So far, in the first opening series, Suzuki he had 3 hits and 8 at-bats, 6 RBIs, and 1 home run and 4 walks. What that number shows me is that he's patient at the plate. He's getting those calls, those proper calls by the umpire, the strikes, the balls. He's really reading the zone, and he has that discipline to maintain that discipline at the plate and get on base. And he's showing out and helping the Cubs maybe make some noise going into this season. I mean, versus the Brewers, versus Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Johnny Peralta. I mean, those are star pitchers. Those are the elite pitchers in this league. And he took him yard, 400, 500 feet. I mean, he's really getting disciplined at the plate. So Suzuki is definitely somebody that I'm going to keep in mind, and I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year if he keeps this up. A little bit premature to see so far. I mean, we're only 3 games into the season. But if he does win Rookie of the Year, it'll be the first one in Cubs history since Chris Bryant won it a couple years back. So definitely Suzuki, I've got my eyes on him all season.
Yeah, Suzuki is electric. But if you're talking about one player that can shift a team's motive and a team's success, I'm going to a player on an irrelevant team, especially without him. And that's the definition of Jose Ramirez. He's the only relevant thing out of Cleveland. I mean, if he wasn't there, I would probably still think that they needed to change their name. They gave him the biggest contract in Cleveland baseball history. In 5 years, $120 million. When you think that that's only half of what the Yankees tried to give Judge, I mean, Cleveland's giving out Ziploc bags, not bags of money, Ziploc bags. And especially if Cleveland does not have Ramirez, they are bottom of the league. They might be bottom with him. But if he plays like an MVP, they could sneak something. I don't really know how far they would get if they do, but he can definitely change the motive of that team's success, especially if he plays like an MVP.
Yeah, you make a great point, Joe. Jose Ramirez is definitely one of those big-name guys and probably one of the only one left on Cleveland. They almost won the World Series back in 2016, and they just haven't found that rhythm since. And Suzuki is just an electric player like you and Joe mentioned. He reminds me a lot of Ohtani when he came over from the Japanese League and just dominated. He's doing a really solid job right now. And those 4 walks you mentioned are crucial. He's very patient at the plate. It's something that a lot of players just don't have anymore, specifically the guy that they lost in the offseason, Javi Baez, is one of those main guys. But with that, the MLB season has just begun, and there's already so much to talk about. I'm sure there will continue to be plenty of exciting storylines and players to follow until we reach the season's end in October. But with that, that's going to do it for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Carlos Garcia and Joe Callahan Jr., I'm Josh Bartosik. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.